Brooke, thank you so much for joining me on the Agentic Marketer, where we're taking a peek into today's leaders' tech stacks and AI strategy to learn more about how you're using AI agents to hit your pipeline targets. But before we dive into anything, Brooke, I'd love to just have you introduce yourself and what you're doing at LogicMonitor.
Amazing. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here because I love talking about this. It's such a fun time to be a marketer. So Brooke Cunningham, Chief Marketing Officer at LogicMonitor, and LogicMonitor plays in the observability space and AI ops. And we are really leaning in on AI. I've been here for the last 18 months as Chief Marketing Officer, and we have put a big focus on re-envisioning how we do demand generation, specifically leveraging AI.
I can't wait to dig into this as a demand gen person in this AI era. I'm really excited to dig into these questions with you. So the first one is, how do you define agentic marketer? And agentic marketing in general, I feel like it's a fairly new term. So I'd love to just hear in your words, like, what does agentic marketing mean to you?
Yeah, it's a whole new world. We're all learning as we go. So that's kind of the fun. And that's what I always am talking to my team about and encouraging them to lean into this moment because it's really, as I said at the beginning, an amazing time to be a marketer because we get to be experimenting with all this great new technology and really taking advantage of a lot of productivity gains. And so to me, agentic marketing is really kind of rethinking how we work. And I think about how we work in terms of how we reach our customers and our prospects, as well as how we rethink how we work as a team and across the business. And that's really for us been looking at our technology stack and specifically our MarTech and partnering with vendors like Qualified to ensure we're getting the latest and greatest technology that's AI forward and AI first, as well as how we're also applying AI to get more productivity gains for our team. As always, as a CMO, I am getting the same pressures as marketers, like do more with less, get more ROI from our budget investments. And so this has just been a huge unlock for us. I have a pretty lean team and a lot of people that have really leaned in to using AI. And so we're just already seeing some great fruits of early adoption.
Brooke, I feel like your enthusiasm about this leaning into this AI era is just so infectious, which I love. I feel like there's always a lot of like trepidation around it, but hearing your enthusiasm around like, no, this is exciting. We get to all learn together. It's just such a refreshing breath of fresh air. So thank you. I really do appreciate that.
May I add a little more actually on that
Yeah.
topic? This is something I talk a lot about with the team because there are different attitudes. Some people have leaned in earlier than others. And I really see this as an opportunity for us as marketers collectively to lead from the front. And, experimentation, marketing has always involved a lot of experimentation. And this is really like a whole new frontier. And I love being able to be at the leading edge of those kind of big moments. This could be real career defining opportunity for all of us as marketers. So that's how I encourage my team to jump on board, have that learning mindset, that growth mindset to try and experiment and have a safe place to do that. And to be then able to really define our careers by being really innovative and tech forward.
Brooke, I feel like you kind of touched on it in that answer a little bit, but I want to dig in just a little bit deeper. I feel like something we hear a lot of is it's really hard to make that mentality shift in this AI era from like experimentation, which to your point as marketers, we're so used to. Like that's just so much part of being a marketer is experimenting and moving fast. But how do you move from that experimentation with AI to actually leading and being at the forefront with it? What have you really tried to do with your team to make yourselves leaders and move past that experimentation?
Yeah, I will answer that first from like the customer point of view and then from the kind of internal point of view. So when it comes to customer outcomes, AI, everybody's got the buzzword everywhere. And so from a customer perspective, we're really leaning into making sure that we're uh, demonstrating real outcomes that we are delivering with our customers. And so anything that we're producing, we're really ensuring that we are stress testing the content, validating it, make sure we have our proof points like we would at any other phase of being a marketer, showcasing other customer stories and successes or validating the data points of the outcomes that we're driving. And with internally, we're really working on how do we move from that like individual experimentation to working more collectively as a team. And so I have really leaned in on showcasing those AI champions, the early adopters on the team, and having them help work on how do we then connect the dots between where we've got great AI champions that are doing great job leveraging AI in their daily work, but then moving it to how do we really align the orchestration that happens naturally across our marketing teams, and then try to really drive that integrated approach. So for us, that leap, it's a time process, taking the time to work through it and map some of the business processes we have. And like transparently, we're still very much in that zone right now, but we have a vision to get there, so that if you took an example of like a campaign from beginning to end through all the marketing channels, that we would have some orchestration across the different teams and tasks to actually have that go through the system. So we're working on like people, process, systems to map that out and ultimately start to make progress towards it. And I don't know that it's going to be, an immediate, end state, but we are making really fast progress, which has been really exciting.
That's awesome. And are there any examples internally recently where you've used agents or generative AI that you've seen like a big return where, making that jump from experimentation into, but like, give me a use case internally where you've seen that good return.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a big project that I'll share an example about, which is we just relaunched our website in the last quarter in July. And then also a personal unlock for me is my team built a Brooke bot. So I'll share a little bit more about that as well. So we had, I came on board last year, CMO, immediately identified that the website was an area that we needed to focus. And we spent a lot of time doing, some concerted effort to clean up. And ultimately, we realized that we really needed to completely redesign the website so that we would have a solid foundation to work from. But I did not have a budget to do what I would consider a true website redesign. And I am so pleased to share that I actually was able to deliver it significantly lower budget in a very dense time frame as a result of being able to leverage AI. And I'll back up and share that one of the things we've done at LogicMonitor is we actually partnered with OpenAI. So we have a partnership with them, and that started at the beginning of 2025. So this is a lot of this progress is just this year. And with that partnership with OpenAI, we have deployed ChatGPT enterprise-wide. So that brought ChatGPT in the hands of all of our employees. We've been heavily encouraging and enabling the teams to leverage it. And it also provided a safe data set so we could leverage all of the content and everything. We could put everything into ChatGPT inside of LogicMonitor. So my team and I very quickly sprinted around this website redesign, and we were able to deliver it with 30% less budget, 1 quarter faster. And we also were able to add a significant more amount of content. Specifically, we really needed in-language websites, and we had very limited translated content. So one in particular example of where we got a huge lift was leveraging Gen AI to help us with the in-language translations for countries like France and Germany. And we have Spanish for both Spain and Latin America. And that was a huge, huge benefit to us. And as we were doing that project, we were also focusing on ensuring that the content on the site was optimized for AI search. I know this is something that is very top of mind for so many marketers right now. And so we really took the time to ensure that as we were building the new site, our content was optimized for that. And we are seeing such a strong return already on our organic search is performing so well. I've been really excited. We've had a 25% increase in top 10 keyword rankings. We've had a 28% increase in site traffic from LLMs. And the proof is in the actual pipeline, 18% increase in the marketing originated pipeline from organic search. So this is only just since July. So I'm really excited to see where this continues to grow and I have also really used this as a great proof point within the company about what marketing is delivering, and as well with the team, because it's been a great encouragement of the effort that the teams put into building some of those custom GPTs for things like translations, which now are evergreen and can support us with campaign content in language, as another example. And
I
then
just, oh no, go ahead.
I was going to say I'll share a little bit more, just a fun thing about the Brooke bot. One thing that I take really seriously as a CMO is that all the content that goes outside the company is on brand, on message, and factually correct, legally approved, and so I review literally everything that goes out the door. And so to help facilitate a fast review cycle, my team did build a Brooke bot, which is not uncommon to have some sort of custom GPT to have all your brand content reviewed with your brand and style guide and your correct voice and all those sorts of things. But it's also trained with some of my particular, favorite things that I catch in writing. And so the Brooke bot has saved me personally a lot of evening and weekend time reviewing content. So that's another one that the team has built that I've been really excited about.
I think some things that stood out to me there is one, in all my years in marketing, I don't think I've ever heard anyone say their website redesign came in 30% under budget and a month fast. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like you typically hear very much the opposite. So that is incredible to hear. And also, I just feel like industry wide, I'm hearing a lot of peers say like organic search is tanking, like they're just not seeing nearly the traffic they're getting organically. So to hear that you stayed ahead of that trend and instead you reshifted your entire website, you leveraged AI to make sure that you are showing up for organic search more and you're actually seeing an increase. It's just so unusual because that's just not what I'm hearing industry wide. So those are just such fantastic examples.
And being able to deliver with the team that we had. And that was just such a positive. I mean, we didn't have additional headcount to help deliver on that project, and everyone still had their regular day jobs as we took on this big project. And the fact that we were able to deliver that, it was so positive. And the team was really excited, as I said, about some of the things that we delivered with that. They're now able to leverage and reuse in other parts of their role. And so we're getting that long-term benefit from it.
That's incredible. I want to shift gears a little bit. We're talking about AI and agentic. So LogicMonitor, you guys hired Piper, who's an AI SDR agent recently, which is so exciting. And we love partnering with LogicMonitor. I'm curious from your perspective as a CMO, what was it about an AI SDR that made your team lean in?
Absolutely. Well, in the same vein of wanting to be AI first, we know that the velocity through the funnel is so important, and that if somebody raises their hand and book a demo or contact me or our top converting inbound lead sources, that we wanted that speed, and also the scale. We're a growing company, and in the same vein of not hiring large amount of more marketers, we've got a set of human BDRs that we are not going to be, growing incrementally. And so we really wanted to leverage AI to help meet the prospect and customer immediately. And having an AI agent that can replicate a lot of the aspects of that human interaction, quickly answer the questions, 24/7. That was another piece that was really critical for us. We are a global organization, and we want to make sure that even if somebody comes in on a weekend time, that there's ability to respond to them right away. And the AI agent doesn't need to take weekends or vacations. So that part is great. And there's peace of mind knowing that our prospects are going to get a high touch experience, and that the website's going to, be able to respond to them effectively right away.
Yeah, I think one of the questions we get a lot when people think about an AI SDR is like, well, how do I measure them? And you kind of talked about that a little bit, but I'd love to just dive in a little deeper. Like, how are you measuring your AI SDR? Like, how do you know what success looks like with them in comparison to the human team that you do have?
Yeah, we are actually looking at some of the same metrics as just looking at how many interactions or conversations. So in fact, Piper SDR, we named ours Edie. So we had our own little naming convention that we gave Edie. And so Edie's already had almost 3,000 conversations. So volume is high, which we're excited about. And that's driven 42 meetings that have resulted in, further, progression through the pipeline. In fact, we have one opportunity that is a $1.8 million pipe opportunity that we're really excited about. So we're looking at some of the same impact measures, conversations, conversion through the pipeline, and then ultimately what are we seeing in terms of pipeline and ultimately bookings that result from that. So the impact, similar metrics, and then also looking at effectiveness or efficiency that we're able to deliver for the humans will be one of the elements that we'll look at over time as well. So for example, maintaining human headcount flat while being able to interact with or engage with prospects and customers at a higher volume. The volume of meetings overall, like chat itself, even when it hands over to a human, it's a really high volume. We've had over 500 chats year to date in 2025 from the site. So that's another element that we look at as well.
That's incredible. Is there anything that having an AI SDR unexpectedly unlocked for your team? Like obviously, pipeline and conversations are kind of the use cases we hear about pretty frequently, but was there anything unexpected that you noticed when you brought on an AI SDR?
Yeah, for us, it really helped with the touch. Sometimes there's prospects that might come in that may not immediately fit the specific ideal customer profile that typically we would have applied our human SDRs to, and Edie's actually been able to help convert some that we perhaps wouldn't have put some of those human resources on. So we had, for example, some site visitors who requested a meeting but then didn't actually get to the closing of the meeting date and time, the calendaring of the meeting date and time. But thanks to Edie, it actually helped reignite some of these. There were some additional prompts that Edie would do, and we ended up getting some extra meetings out of that we probably wouldn't have gotten if it weren't for those prompts. So kind of consider it like maybe like free pipeline. And the open rate when we were piloting this, the open rate on the Edie emails was 96%. So it was exceeding what we would typically see with some of those human outreach touches. And it also just really validated that sometimes we as humans just need that extra nudge.
That is a very unexpected one, but I love hearing that because that is really cool that it's getting almost a higher open rate than you would for human. That when you said 96, I was like, whoa, that's pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, I want to take a step back a little bit, Brooke, and talk a little bit more just about like the market in general and being a CMO. The first question I have for you is, what do you think is the single biggest change to B2B marketing in the next 12 months? Obviously AI, but beyond AI, like what do you think is going to be that biggest change we're going to see?
Yeah, I've been noodling on this a lot, and I'm very active talking with other CMOs because I think we're all looking at this, and we're in planning for 2026. And one of the things I'm personally doing differently than I have in the past that I think is going to be a big shift in the coming year is I'm writing an org chart plan for next year that includes not just humans, but actually AI agents. And where am I augmenting the work with AI? So for example, when we're thinking about content or campaigns, we build a number of custom GPT agents that are helping us with that content generation and the campaign creation, and really thinking about how are we starting to orchestrate that piece that I was talking about before. And so for me, that's one big change that I'm seeing, and that's consistent with a lot of the conversations and events that I'm attending with other CMOs. We're all grappling with, well, what is the org chart of the future, and how are we thinking about how AI orchestrates across the marketing organization?
I could not agree more. I do think one, from an org chart perspective, like where do they live? Like how much do we, for our example is we have a pipeline council every single Friday where we look at how much pipeline we've created. And once we started to add our AI SDR, AI BDR into the pipeline council at like on the leaderboard, where do they stand? It really helped give like a full view of performance. And we're like, okay, they are like a part of the org chart. Like we are seeing them here stacked up against their human colleagues, and we want to make sure that they're being held accountable and they're hitting the same metrics. So I definitely agree with that. And then to your point of B2B marketing in the next 12 months, we just talked about what we think is going to be the biggest change. What do you think marketers are still going to be getting wrong with AI a year from now?
Yeah, the the human touch is still going to matter. And, even just when we were talking about where we're using Edie, we still need, when we're engaging with prospects and customers, they still are wanting that human touch. They still want to be advised, and they're looking for that human touch to validate. So I do think we're going to need to very mindfully consider where the human in the loop with regards to when we're thinking about like the marketing to sales process and funnel, or even like what work gets done by who, and the who being whether that's a human or AI. I mean, we do a lot of sharing amongst my team. So we do a lot of best practice sharing. But one of the things that's been really fun and helpful is also the big AI fails. And, there's still lots of like hallucination or getting things wrong. And so training the GPTs, training the AI matters, and like reviewing and really stress testing what's being, the outputs that the AI is giving us to ensure that we're, not just accepting, what things are coming out is so critical. And so I have seen in some cases where there hasn't been that human in the loop as much as it's needed, that some of the outputs may not be at the quality or caliber that they need to be. So that's something that I can see um, being a challenge, or something that not everyone takes into consideration for the time and attention it's going to require.
Absolutely. And I think this kind of transitions into the next question, which is what are you encouraging your team, like your marketing team, to double down on in order to thrive in this AI driven era? Things like stress testing the AI, but are there any particular skills or things that you're really imparting on them to succeed in this AI world?
Yeah, so I touched on earlier that we're really focused on the learner's mindset, the growth mindset.
Mhm.
We're enabling our team. So one of the things we've done as an organization is leaned into ensuring that all of our team gets access to the enablement that they need, so that we're giving people the tools. And then the things that I'm encouraging people to do is to ensure that they're doing those testing, really thinking about training the AI, validating. I'll go back to some of the examples I shared about using the the custom GPTs for translations. And that was another example where we needed the human in the loop. And so encouraging the team to really take the outputs and test it and retrain the GPT. So there was a lot of retraining. So prompt, you know, learning how to prompt AI, learning how to stress test the outputs and validate with humans. So, for example, with those translations, it was enlisting the help of the local teams to make sure that there were, sound translations. And then when the output was incorrect, we had to make sure we went back and train the GPTs. So it's kind of that full circle loop that has been a big element of focus for us.
That totally makes sense. And then I have one last question for you around more of this like larger view before we jump into our lightning round, which is one of my favorite sections. So if you were to advise another CMO, you kind of mentioned you're going to a lot of events right now, you're talking to a lot of your peers. How are you guys talking about adopting AI responsibly? Like, what is something that you would advise another CMO on? Or what is something you've heard at one of the events you've been at recently when you talk about that responsible AI adoption within your organizations?
Yeah, we have had a really big focus on the responsible adoption part. And part of what we've done is we've really partnered with our InfoSec team and the IT teams to make sure that everything that we're doing, that we're protecting our own data, our
Mhm.
customers' information and data, and that when we're adopting new AI technologies, that there's some level of responsible oversight, not overreaching in terms of like making it difficult to adopt new things. But every technology that we're bringing on board in the MarTech stack, we have IT consulting with us and ensuring that we understand how and where things are being used, because there's so many cool new things spinning up, new AI tools coming left and right. It feels like a new one every week. And so we're making sure that whatever we're using, because if we're putting any of our content or materials in there, we want to be sure we understand how we're protecting that content and information. And so that's where I've really leaned into the support that we have from our IT organization and our InfoSec team, et cetera. And then the other piece that I can't be underestimated is the change management. And so we actually have also brought in some specific roles in our organization to help us really think about, we're transforming how we work. Change management for the humans as we adopt AI is critical. And so that's something, and that's part of sort of an innovation team, but it's a part of our people organization, because it really is about how do we ensure we're helping the humans through this adoption of AI. So those are a couple things. If I was to say like a little bit of a warning, I have heard a couple of people share that their organizations are not permitting the use of AI, and that definitely would be a concerning flag. My point of view is that any organization that's not figuring out how to leverage AI in the right way for their business is likely going to fall behind. So that would be, something that, that's an area where I've seen some cautionary tales.
I couldn't agree more. I think being able to responsibly use it yourself as a professional and getting up to speed is just so imperative. And I know our organization has taken very similar steps, it sounds like, as LogicMonitor, about making sure like any new AI tools that are being adopted, obviously they want the right security measures in place, so when you're feeding it all of this data and information, that it is secure within your organization. But yeah, it'd be a red flag to me if someone was saying, no, you can't use AI, because I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling behind. I was gone for 4 months on maternity leave and I came back and I was like, it's a whole new world.
So
I feel like I'm ready.
yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it's so true.
Okay, Brooke, I'm going to jump into our last section here, which is the lightning round. It's just a few quick questions to wrap things up. And the first is, what was the first AI tool that you started testing as a marketer?
Oh yeah. So going back a few years, there were some of the initial AI image generators. They were very wonky. I do remember there was a video tool we used called Lumen 5. It was pretty good. And it was one where you could feed it text and it would create little videos with AI. And it was actually such an unlock. So that was one of the first ones that I was having the aha moment of wow, this is really cool. And what a great unlock.
And then what do you think is the most overrated buzzword in MarTech right now?
Oh gosh. Well, we're using one a lot on this call, which is the agent or agentic. Although I actually have a fun one that's not a buzzword, but an emoji, which has turned into the most overused emoji thanks to thank you AI, the rocket ship. I joke with my team that they need to train the Brooke bot not to use the rocket ship emoji because it's the tell that AI wrote your content.
Such a good point. Our head of content, she loves an M dash, and she's been using them far before ChatGPT. And she tells me all the time, she's like, Sarah, I was an M dash girl way before ChatGPT used. I'm like, you got to get rid of it.
That is really true. Yeah.
Okay, who's another marketer that you really respect and you think is ahead of the curve on AI that people listening to this should go follow?
Oh, yes. Shout out to Lisa Adams. She's so amazing. I'm sure this community knows her. She's a former CMO and now kind of AI guru and advisor to CMOs and executives and marketing strategy, and really helping with thinking through how to transform your marketing organization with AI. And she's just so prolific in sharing all this great content. So she's definitely one to follow on LinkedIn.
100%. Lisa's amazing. We had her at one of our summits probably a year ago, and she did a session with one of our co-founders, and she was just such a wealth of knowledge. And I still go back and listen to her sessions sometimes because even in 30 minutes, she just instilled a lot of wisdom. So I second Lisa. She's fantastic.
That's awesome.
Last question for you, and is not really work related. If you could automate one part of your life outside of work with AI, what would it be?
Oh gosh. I mean, any household chores would be amazing. Can we get the laundry robot or the dishwasher robot or something? Although I do use AI in my personal life for fun things. I recently used AI to help me name my fantasy football team, where, you use it for all sorts of creative things.
Do you mind me asking, what did AI tell you to name your fantasy football team?
Well, I'm a 49ers fan, and so this was before Brock Purdy was injured. And it's a fantasy football league of all CMOs. So I wanted it to be a marketing pun and incorporating the 49ers. And so my team name is Purdy Good Conversion Rate.
I love that. I also used, I think, ChatGPT and Perplexity to try to help me name my qualified. We have our own fantasy football league here at Qualified, and asked it a lot of questions. So I think most of the names in our fantasy football league here at work were named by
I
ChatGPT.
It's great. I had a lot of fun with that one.
It was a lot of fun. Well, Brooke, it was so great having you on the show today. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciated everything that you shared today.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.